afternoon once more to everyone. Honorable Subota Caesar, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Forestries, Rural Transformation, Industries and Labor. Honorable Carlos James, Minister of Tourism. Mr. Darry Williams, Chairman of the Zero Hunger Trust Fund. Mrs. Sophia Horn-Beek, Chief Executive Officer, Zero Hunger Trust Fund. Mr. Alban Williams, Field Officer, Agriculture Input Warehouse. Members of the media, invited guests, staff, students, I officially welcome you to the opening of the Intermediate High School Maths and Science Department Agriculture Science Program. My name is Mr. Marlon Young, and I'll be your chairperson for today. As far as we can look back into our history, agriculture has been a main part of our history. If we trace our way back from when our foreparents traveled over the Himalayas and traveled across the Bering Strait into the Caribbean, we understand that agriculture is what sustained them to this very day. In 2001, when Lasso Fire erupted, we saw the importance of agriculture and food security to our very own existence as a nation. And it's proud to see that we have representatives from the various ministries of government here with us today, because it shows that our government does not see this as a one-sector approach, but a multi-sector approach, and the whole of government is needed to ensure that the security of our nation rise beyond its full potential. And so as we launch this program this afternoon, we are grateful for your assistance, the Zero Hunger Trust Fund, for believing in agriculture and for seeing that our students have what it takes to ensure that the security of our nation is upheld. We also would like to thank you from the deepest part of our heart for believing in us, for saying that agriculture is no longer a thing that we leave to those who are not educated, but we see that the brightest minds of our people need to also be invested in agriculture, because there's so many different fields within agriculture. Among us today, we might have one of the greatest biochemists among us, and so we thank you for investing in that. So as I officially welcome you to this opening, I'll make way for the Minister of Education to take his seat. Welcome to the Minister of Education, Mr. Curtis King. At this time, we have some remarks from our principal, Mrs. Mona Green. Please welcome Mrs. Mona Green to the podium.
Thank you very much. Honorable Curtis King, Minister of Education, National Reconciliation and Information. Honorable Subota Caesar, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor. Honorable Carlos James, Minister of Tourism. Mrs. Sophia Horn-Beek, Chief Executive Officer of Zero Hunger Trust Fund. Mr. Alban Williams, Field Officer, Agriculture Input Warehouse. Members of the media, Mr. Marlon Young, Chairman. Other invited guests, staff, students, good afternoon. In reviewing the curriculum at the end of the 2021-2022 school year, we recognize the need to add agriculture science to the curriculum. This recognition was strengthened since there is land space available at the school. Subsequently, the subject was introduced in the third and fourth forms. Our main objective is to prepare the students for life and living. The students can now leave school with the requisite skills to get involved in vegetable and poultry production and farming generally. The students will be given the opportunity to sit agriculture science at the CSEC level, wherein they can pursue further studies in agriculture science. The first cohort of students will write the subject, at the CSEC level for the May-June 2024 CSEC examinations. Agriculture is important, and we believe that if this culture is instilled in our students, we will have more of our youth producing agriculture products in a professional manner. They can therefore create employment for themselves and others while reducing our import bill for agricultural products. I must publicly express our gratitude to the Kingstown Cooperative Credit Union, who came to our assistance then. More and more students have expressed interest in getting involved in the agriculture program. This required us as a staff to seek assistance from other organizations. Therefore, a project was prepared by a group of our teachers led by Ms. Patricia Payne and was submitted to the Zero Hunger Trust Fund. The project was accepted. As a result, agriculture science will now be introduced in Forms 1 and 2 for this new school year. I would like to express my gratitude to the chairperson of the Zero Hunger Trust and his team for coming to our assistance and for the technical support they will continue to give to us and the agriculture teachers here at Intermediate High School. I know that the students will build on the foundation they receive here and that they will forever be grateful to you, the personnel of the Zero Hunger Trust Fund, for the investment you made in them. May your organization continue to develop and prosper as you continue to support the youth of our nation. I thank you.
Principal of the Intermediate High School, Mrs. Mona Green. We'll now have our music teacher, Mr. Rohan Bilinji, performing for us an instrumental. Please sit back as you are serenaded with one of the talent here at Intermediate High School.
Ah Next.
Thank you, Mr. Belingi. The Intermediate High School is the third secondary school to have been erected in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It was started by the Eustace family, and this year we celebrated 97 years of existence. 97 years of shaping minds under the theme, with God's help, we shall succeed. We believe that education is indeed the quickest way to get one out of poverty. And we strive with all that we have within us to ensure that our children that come under our care understand that they don't have to be a lawyer to be successful. And that is why programs like this and our music program is instrumental in the holistic development of our students here at Intermediate High School. Once again, thanks to our music teacher, Mr. Rohan Belingi. At this time, we would invite Mr. Alban Williams, Field Officer of the Agriculture Input Warehouse, to brief us with a few remarks.
Mr. Marlon Young, our Master of Ceremonies, Mrs. Mona Green, Principal, Intermediate High School, Mrs. Safia Horn Batiste, Chief Executive Officer, Zero Hunger, Honorable Curtis King, Minister of Education and National Reconciliation, Honorable Sabota Caesar, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor, Mr. Honorable Carlos James, Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development and Culture, Mr. Paddy Thomas, our consultant to the Fields Division of the Agricultural Import Warehouse, the media, staff, students, invited guests, a special good afternoon to you. The AIW is very pleased to be associated with this signing of this understanding today. Over the years, the AIW has been supporting schools in their program of agriculture. As a matter of fact, with the establishment of our Fields Division not too long ago, it has given us the opportunity to work with students in a more comprehensive way. Currently, there are about 6 schools we are currently working with this school being one of them. And it is possible that in the future, we will add more schools to our program. With the continued war in Ukraine, the impact of COVID-19 on food production across the globe, climate change, and the resulting impact on high food prices, it is important that we manage food security for the future. And as field officers, as we travel the length and breadth of this country, we are seeing the vast lands lying there in bush that can be utilized and can be used to produce enough food to feed us and to export to the world. As we looked around, we see that most of our farmers are now in their senior years. Hence the need to groom and to encourage and to motivate our young students into becoming the farmers for the future who can ensure sustainability, availability of food for the future. This school, from our experience with it, has had a successful agricultural program And I know that with the signing of this memorandum today, it will only help them to achieve even a greater level of success. And so today, I want to encourage us to encourage our youth. Let them get involved. Let them be encouraged, motivated. And I believe that if the young people today should get involved and get into the lands and get into farming and get into agriculture, then our food security issues for the future will be non-existent. There will be plenty of nice quality, locally grown Vincentian food to feed all of us and to export to the wider world. God bless and thank you for your assistance today.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. At this time, we'll invite to the podium Mrs. Safia Hornbeek, Chief Executive Officer of the Zero Hunger Trust Fund.
Thank you, Chairman. Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development, Culture, Honorable Carlos James. Minister of Agriculture, Forestries, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor, Honorable Sabuto Caesar. Minister of Education and National Reconciliation, Honorable Curtis King. Principal of the Intermediate High School, Ms. Mona Green. Members of the Board of Directors of the Zero Hunger Trust Fund who have joined us today. Mr. Alban Williams, Field Officer, Agriculture Input Warehouse. President of the IHS Parent Teachers Association, Mr. Glaston Pilgrim. Members of staff at the Intermediate High School. Specially invited guests, students, media, good afternoon. I am thrilled to be here today at the Intermediate High School representing the Zero Hunger Trust Fund to mark your extension of your agriculture science program that you began a year ago. This is the second such ceremony in as many months, and as we embark on our goal to assist schools and to make sure that agriculture science is part of every secondary school in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This occasion is symbolic as it involves re-engaging students from the school in one of the most important sectors of our economy. Until 2 months ago, agriculture science was only taught in one urban secondary school, but today's signing ceremony brings the total to 3 urban secondary schools undertaking agriculture science. This demonstrates a new thinking coupled with innovation that would drive the expansion and sustainability of the sector, which all necessary factors contributing to the zero hunger in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The MOU being signed today represents the ZHF commitment to the school to develop and implement an agricultural science program that will expand the potential and sustainability of the industry. The ZHF has a mandate to finance programs to end hunger, and we are happy to support agriculture science to meet our mandate. Promoting agriculture science in school is a powerful tool in the fight for zero hunger. By integrating agriculture science into education curriculum, we are nurturing not only the minds of our students, but also their understanding of where food comes from and the challenges of feeding a growing population. Through hands-on experiences and classroom learning, we can instill a sense of responsibility for sustainable farming practices and resource management. By empowering our youth with agricultural knowledge, we are sowing the seeds of change for the future where hunger is eliminated. Students could also explore avenues for sustainable livelihood in the industry, enabling them to put food on their table for them and their families. Let us embrace this opportunity to educate, inspire, and contribute to a world where every individual have access to nutritious foods. To the students who are here today on vacation but wanted to be with us, I say to you, as you embark on this journey in this field, remember that you are at the forefront of feeding the world's growing population and ensuring sustainable practices. Embrace curiosity, stay updated with the latest advancement, and always prioritize environmental stewardship. Your dedication will shape the future of agriculture and contribute to a healthier St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Together, we can cultivate a generation that stand up against hunger and lead us towards a brighter, nourished tomorrow. Remember, there's nothing that we eat that does not start from agriculture. Therefore, let us be the ones to produce our food and eat what we grow. Thank you very much, and we will look forward to a productive relationship with the IHS.
Thanks to you, Ms. Beek. At this time, we'll now have another presentation that show forth that our students are not only academically inclined, but they are filled with talent, and those talents would be nurtured here at the Intermediate High School. We now invite Charisma Lee and Zinaya Small to entertain you at this time.
I've been made free. I am forgiven. Fear has to leave. Strongholds are broken. I've been made free. I am forgiven. Fear has to leave. Your name is healing. Your name is power. Your name is holy. My strong tower. Wonderful name. Glorious name. Powerful name of Jesus. Jesus, speak the name above all other names. Speak the name no wind and waves obey. All of heaven's coming down, fill the earth with the sound of the name of Jesus. Speak the name of Jesus.
Thank you, Charisma and Zinaya. At this time, we'll welcome the Minister of Education to the podium to brief us with some remarks, the Honorable Mr. Curtis King.
The protocol is. Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, etc., the Honorable Soboto. The Honorable Soboto Caesar, Honorable Carlos James, Minister of Tourism, Honorable, no, Fitz is not here, sorry. Mr. Derry Williams, I hope he is here. Mrs. Ann DeBeek, Mr. Alban Williams, Mr. Pilgrim, members of the media, but very importantly for me, the principal, staff, and students of the Intermediate High School. A pleasant good afternoon. And indeed, it is a good afternoon. It is a pleasant afternoon because we are here as part of the revival, if you like, of teaching agriculture in our schools. And perhaps I should broaden the concept of teaching to that of the teaching and practice of agriculture in our schools. I say this because I don't want persons to get the impression that agriculture was never done in the schools. In fact, there was a time when agriculture was so popular in the schools that you had various competitions where schools entered in terms of their farms and so on and so on. Indeed, when I started my career in teaching way back in 1983 at the Gome Methodist School, I had an agricultural program. And I always remember the first crop that I reaped, or should I say, my class reaped, was that of a crop of dasheen. And we sold it for the wonderful price of 65 EC dollars. And in the very small class that I had at the time, primary school I'm talking about, I remember sharing up the money among the students who were, of course, elated because in the case of one gentleman who got $15, one student, that was like a lifetime savings. Now, I say this to say that agriculture is important and important for many respects. There are a lot of benefits for everyone involved. So let me start with this new initiative. Now, following the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruption of our La Soufrière volcano, the focus on the reintroduction of agriculture in our schools became sharper. In fact, the general public was discussing the issue because it was felt that, look, one of the good things that came out of our bad experience with regards to the pandemic is that we had a lot of local food to feed ourselves. That is not something that could have been said by several of our neighboring countries. And so there began a discussion within the public and private sectors. And out of that discussion came an initiative known as Operation Green Spout. And I recall we had a hashtag. I'm going to make sure I have it so I could quote it correctly. We had a hashtag called Out of the Ashes, Making the Value of Agriculture Real. Yes. Now, in this initiative, were involved the Ministry of Agriculture, headed by the minister, the Ministry of Education, I was there representing the ministry, and Mr. Sesmaki representing a private sector concern. Now, on the 8th of June, 2021, I remember like if it was yesterday, we had a meeting, that is to say, with the principals, both at the level of primary and secondary school. And at that meeting, we discussed the initiative, the Green Spout initiative. And importantly, we talk about how this initiative can help to enhance the transformation of rural communities. Because as you know, the Ministry of Agriculture has a program called Rural Transformation. But at that meeting, the principals were very vocal. I want you to put your hands together for our principals. Because to a large degree, it is their commitment and enthusiasm why we are here today. But the principals were adamant that despite the fact that some schools have agriculture, that too much focus was being placed on examinations. More than that, they were of the view that agriculture as a subject to be taught and practiced was too important to be excluded from the curriculum in our schools. To that extent, the idea was accepted not only by the secondary schools principals, but also by the principals of the primary schools. And that is important, because if we can get agriculture being taught and practiced at that elementary stage, and by the time they get to secondary and post-secondary, we would have deeply committed persons in the teaching and practice of agriculture. I keep referring to both of them, teaching and practice, because I want us to understand that this thing has more to do with feeding ourselves, with sustaining the practice that would ensure that we have sustainable development. Because it doesn't matter how much industrialized a country is. And these days, it doesn't matter how advanced you are in terms of your service industry. If you can't feed yourself, you're not going anywhere. And we have to get that ingrained in the awareness of our people. And the best way to do that is to start in the schools, if not the level of the primary schools. So that is why I'm so happy and passionate about this program, because I do recognize and do accept that agriculture is so important that we should have it again, reintroduce, if you like, in our curriculum. And therefore, I want to commend the latest school that is doing a public launching of its agricultural program. That is to say, the intermediate high school. You know, there are a number of schools who are involved in it. Some have quietly gone about their business. Others are making public announcements, and we all welcome them. In fact, I was at this very school yesterday, and I had a little chit-chat with the principal and her staff. And sorry, deputy principals and others, for taking up so much of your time yesterday. But I felt it was necessary, because I was saying that, look, and somebody mentioned it, this school has played a significant role in the education of our young people. But sometimes it don't get the credit. Not many persons remember, I even recall, I even aware that this school was started in 1926. And at the time, it represented the only school available to the mass of the people where they could obtain a secondary education. Because you know why? Yes, we need to clap for that. You know why? Because the two existing institutions at the time were the St. Vincent Grammar School and the Girls High School. And those schools were only accessible to a very tiny minority. And students, I say this all the time, we take for granted today the fact that we have universal access to secondary education. But back then in the 1920s, when this school was established, only the two brightest boys and the two brightest girls throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not in Kingston, no, throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who were given the opportunity to pursue secondary education. And that is why I keep making the point every time I talk to this school that we need always to acknowledge and recognize the importance of this school, because it was the first co-ed school, that is to say, students, the first school with boys and girls that offered secondary education to those who were from the lower end of our socioeconomic status. And that must come for something. So that when your school is part of an initiative like this, I must be here to offer my support as well as the Ministry of Education support. Because you are following in the tradition of one whom we are promoting for national hero status. I call him the Honorable John Pamenos Eustace and his family, who started this institution back then. Don't want to forget that. The history is important to guide the way forward. So I want to commend this school for taking this initiative. And I know with the committed teacher, she is somewhere. Yes, she was attending Gobe Methodist School, not when I had my project. She is much too young. But I think her sister came just after that. But she is a committed individual. Very much so. And I know that the school will give her that support. And I want everybody to work together to ensure that this program is successful. I know I have an next function, so I'm going to ask you to excuse me when you see me leaving before the end of this activity. But I'm not going to leave before I say something about the curriculum. You know, we have done really well in terms of advancing our education here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have moved from that period when we inherited from the colonial masters an education system filled with gaps and holes, if you like. And we have sought to cover them, to fill them in. And we have done well in terms of giving access. I mentioned just now the whole idea about secondary education. Well, look, early childhood education was non-existent. We have taken it to the level now where 8 out of 10 out of the cohort under 3 years of age. Sorry, 3 years to about 5 years. They are now exposed to early childhood education. We have for a long time had almost universal primary education, but we have universal secondary now. And we have done wonderfully well in terms of the number of our students that we expose to tertiary level education. And we have done really well too in training our teachers, and not only training them, but when they get training, we reward them by appointing them to the graduate position and higher positions. And we have been seeking continuously to provide infrastructure, not perfect, but at least at a stage where they are comfortable for learning to take place. Today, I like to say these things, because we have to understand these things. Today, despite our many challenges, we have a situation now where on average, we spend something like 10% of our national budget on education. Think about all the other competing things, but we spend 10% and education is about second. Today, we have ratios that are first world standards, where teacher to student is concerned. We are talking about 1 to 12 in terms of primary education, 1 to 13, 1 teacher to 13 students, where secondary education is concerned. I am making these points because not only to show our commitment, but to impress on you that despite what colonialism left us, we have been working hard to correct that. And on another occasion, I want to talk about reparation because they owe us. But I ain't going to talk a lot about that today. What I will say is that I am making this point so that you could understand when I say, despite all that wonderful progress that we have made, there's still room for improvement. Why? Because we have to move our education system to the next level. And all of us have to work to do that. Teachers, principal, the civil society, the sponsors, and so on. What we call the corporate citizens, and so on. And one of the things we have to grapple with, without going into detail, given what the next 2 ministers will talk about, I'm not going to talk about that in terms of contribution to agriculture, to tourism, and so on. But one of the things that we have to grapple with is the need to transform our education system in such a way that it does better in producing an individual that is holistic in his development. In other words, a well-rounded individual. And we have to do so. And part of that means that we have to make significant changes to our curriculum and have subjects that are important, not only as subjects, but as practice, such as agriculture, very much involved. So I thank you, Intermediate High School, for being here. And I know, as I said, when the grammar school launched their program, I know we are going to have a lot of schools launching too. Because by right, they are saying if grammar school could launch agriculture program, why we can't do that too? After all, we have more land space than them in some cases to engage our program. So once again, I want to thank the civic organizations, the corporate citizens for their input in this program, and also thank the minister responsible for the Zero Hunger Trust Fund for the effort and for recognizing the importance of having agriculture sustained by our people. I wish you all the best for the rest of the program, and I would not, well, this would not be my last visit. I'll be coming when you're reaping, because I know you would be doing so soon. And let me once again commend all involved for a wonderful project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. I must say, I'm very interested in what the next person is going to say. Having been born, raised, and have grown in an agriculture community myself. At this time, let us bring to the podium the Honorable Mr. Sobota Caesar, Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Well, I am just here to give support to all that was said, because it's an excellent address that was delivered by our Minister of Education. Give him another round of applause, please. cabinet colleagues at the head table, Safia Horn Beaker, the Zero Hunger Trust Fund, and other members of staff here, the principal and staff of IHS, the staff on board of AIW, and I want us to give the students a special round of applause this afternoon. Well wishers, I heard that the members from the PTA here and the media. To whom much is given, much is expected. Before I go into my few words, I want to commend the teachers for getting the students to put on their uniforms in August to come out. Let us give the students another round of applause for that. And for those who are my age, when we were growing up in the villages, when they wanted to cause somebody, you say you went to school in August, and people will laugh at them. But this afternoon is different. This school is showing true dedication by coming to school in August, and I respect that. I want to underscore a very important point, Mr. Chair, that you made. And I just want to spend some time endorsing it, because sometimes it is lost upon us as human beings. Our world has been shaped in many ways by food. You noted that men were hunters and gatherers and came across the Bering Straits. And that is how history recalls it, as to how mankind moved from Asia over into North America. We know the history all too well, that the indigenous people from South America came through with their canoes, the Caribs and the Arawaks and the Siboneyes, and they were moving from island to island. And what was the object? It was food. I just returned from a visit to India. And when I was in India, that part of history dawned on me clearly, that Christopher Columbus wanted a shorter route, a sea route to India, the East Indies, and decided to sail west. And when he didn't find India by sailing west, he called it the West Indies. Again, looking for food. I would not repeat the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic, the war, Russia, Ukraine, the volcanic eruptions, all brought to bear the whole issue of the importance of food. But it is one thing to live. It's another thing to study history. But the real historians are those who use a study of the past to understand the future. I want to repeat that. It's easy to go down by Games Bookstore and buy a history book and learn all the dates and the events. That's the past. But the true historians, they study the past to understand the present and in order to predict the future. And I'm going to talk about the future. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, based on their numbers and their predictions, they have noted that by 2050, by that time I'll be 70 years old, by 2050, if the current trends continue, the population of the world continues to grow, and we continue to produce food at the pace that we are doing it now, that the world would run out of food. That is the reality. And that is why I'm so happy that Kayla, little, 14 years old, took a day, an evening from her vacation to be here with other students. And she's 14 years old. Can you stand, please? She's 14 years old. And when I became the Minister of Agriculture, she was only 2 years old. Give her a round of applause for her dedication. So, if you are a policymaker, any wise government in the world today, the workers at the Zero Hunger Trust Fund, the principal and staff, the people at Input Warehouse, what we are doing here today is that we are preparing for 2050 to ensure that the world doesn't run out of food. Because if we don't do that, and if we don't get that right, history will be written in 2070 or 2090 saying that the world ran out of food in 2050 because people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and around the world did not take the warning seriously. This is how history is written, you know. I'm taking you in the past, I'm bringing you present, and I'm taking you to the future. I want to encourage the Zero Hunger Trust Fund, particularly Safia Hornbeek, to continue to do the work that you are doing, and you're doing an excellent job. When I walked up the steps of grammar school a few weeks ago, and it was for the launch of the introduction of agriculture to the grammar school, I realized that something was happening. Because to the students, when I was your age, a long time ago, if I said to my mother, I want to be a farmer, and some people laughing. If I said to my mother, I wanted to be a fisherman, she would either send me for counseling, or if her belt was close by, I would feel the belt over my shoulder. But look at how the world has changed. Yesterday, we were in Mespo Valley, and the farmer said to us, the few sacks of dasheen that he just reaped there is close to $20,000. And the price for food is going up all over the world. If you speak to the Input Warehouse, there was even a question in Parliament recently, why aren't we producing more seedlings? And I answered correctly, well, agriculture is on such a high that as soon as they put the seedlings out, people are coming to buy them. And agriculture is a part and parcel of the soul of our people. What are we going to do as a ministry to assist? Well, there are some persons who will come and see you need help and don't come back. The Minister of Education is going to come back. The Minister of Tourism is going to come back. And I took a look through the window and I noticed the land behind. And your agriculture teacher, we grew up together as children. Our parents used to do trafficking and used to come to Sanssouci on a weekend, and we used to go by them. You see again, agriculture almost created a marriage. People are moving because of food. And I see my teacher in the back said, my teacher in the back in the blue, she nodded and smiled. But that is what agriculture does. But the Ministry of Agriculture will be ensuring that we send members of staff, extension staff to help you. We'll also send persons from SoilCon also to assist you. When we have fertilizer, we'll give you these. And not only that, we'll come for the students from time to time and take them on field trips. Because I know the students don't want to be locked up in the classroom all the time. Two final points I want to leave with us. One is that when we spend time teaching agriculture, we must also spend some time addressing the issue of fisheries. Because yesterday, I was advised that the first tuna long-line vessel from the fleet expansion program was purchased and will be in the Kingston Harbor tomorrow. And the first vessel that came up from Petit Martinique to land fish here about 4 years ago in our export program, the captain was 19 years old. And he said in 1 week, the value of the fish was $75,000. I had to work a long, long time before I get $75,000. Now, that is one. And the second thing I want to encourage us to do. For the last week, I have been going to the hospital every single morning to see friends. We have to not only talk about food security, but eating safe food. A lot of the food that is grown outside of the country is unsafe. And I say that without any fear of contradiction. A lot of the food eaten outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines are produced in environments where they have very high pesticide residue. We place in this country a ban on the usage of a chemical called glyphosate, because a man was walking around a schoolyard in America. Some glyphosate from Roundup touched his skin. He came down with cancer and later died. And he sued for close to 200 and something million US dollars, and he won them. It's one thing to live, but we have to be healthy. And for the budget of 2024, we are going to put some monies aside because there's a lab out at the Cannabis Authority to test the food that is coming into this country. And if it's not of a good quality, we're going to put it on the plane, we're going to put it on the boat, and we're going to send it right back to where it came from. I want to wish this program all the very best, and may God continue to richly bless us. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Caesar. We have seen over the years expansion within our tourism industry, an increase in hotels being built and tourism product serving our nation. Without any shadow of a doubt, agriculture is important if we are expanding our tourism. And so at this time, we welcome the Minister of Tourism to the podium, the Honorable Mr. Carlos James.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And let me recognize my cabinet and parliamentary colleague, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Caesar, and you heard from earlier from Minister King, who's Minister of Education. And I adopt and endorse everything that was said by those two ministers in their presentations. Also, I want to recognize Safia Hornbeek, who has been doing an extraordinary job as the CEO of the Zero Hunger Trust Fund. I want to commend her here on that initiative. There are other members here of the board, members from the Input Warehouse, and of course, importantly, the wonderful principal, the teaching staff, and the students of the intermediate high school. I want to thank you for inviting us here to this launching and the signing of this MOU between the Zero Hunger Trust Fund and your institution. Apart from tourism, I also hold the portfolio of Minister of Sustainable Development. And under that portfolio falls the Zero Hunger Trust Fund. And it's important for us to recognize, and when I looked at the first 4 goals of the Sustainable Development Goals, which we And the world has set as a target by 2030 to achieve. The very first four of them are linked directly and indirectly to you as students, to our local population here, and also to us collectively as a country, but importantly to you as an institution. Goal 1 speaks to no poverty, eradicating poverty in all its forms. Goal 2, which is relative to why we are here today, and that thrust on agriculture and its development and expansion within our institutional, secondary and primary education institutions, is zero hunger by 2030. Goal 3, which the minister outlined earlier, spoke to good health and well-being. Goal 4 is also connected to you in terms of quality education. So those first 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals are directly and indirectly linked to the program which you will be doing here at this institution. We'll be looking at producing in a sustainable way and improving our agricultural practices and knowledge transfer to you as students so that you can be more rounded, have a clear understanding and appreciation of why agriculture, but importantly food security, is important to us as a country. And I want you to learn and understand and recognize that. So the work that we are doing, and Safia and her team in the Zero Hunger Trust Fund, what they've been doing, is very important and integral to our development as a country. They've started and they've launched the program, I believe, a few weeks ago at the St. Vincent's Boys Grammar School. We're here now at the intermediate high school. And of course, we'll be taking this program to other schools across the country, particularly in the rural areas as well. In Sandy Bay, I believe, and in Peterborough, in North Leeward, and Camden Park, and other places in Maricopa. We have to start to inculcate within our youth the importance of why food security is critical to our survival as a people. Those of you who have seen and experienced what took place during the pandemic, and even the eruption of our Lassa Fray, many of our farmers could not go to their farms. Many of us did not know where we were going to purchase local produce from, because a lot of the farmers were affected during the volcano. We have to take seriously the issue of how we address dealing with our food production and learning as students as well why it is important for you and the next generation that is going to come and follow after you. I just want to point out, in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals and goal to end hunger in all forms by 2030, it also has the issue of achieving food security, improving nutrition, and promoting sustainable agriculture, which are all critical as part of the curriculum in your agricultural science program that you'll be learning here. But I want to show you how that is also linked to another very vibrant and important sector, which is tourism. We are building a number of hotels here, both private and public sector. In some respects, public-private partnership. Constructing about 4 or 5 hotels here in mainland. We're adding over 1,000 rooms by 2025, 26. What that means And if we're talking 70 to 100% capacity, and when you factor in all of the other hotels which were here before, you're talking every morning, someone within one of those rooms, and when the multiplier effect, you're talking about at least 700 eggs that are going to be consumed every single morning. Whether it's an omelette, whether it's scrambled, fried, boiled, they're going to consume. You tell me one farmer in St. Vincent who, on an average every day, produce 700 eggs. We don't have that. It means that there's room and scope for advancement in an investment in that aspect in terms of our food production. They're going to also consume a lot of fruits and vegetables. And what that simply means, and fish, and ground provisions, and what that simply means for us is that we're going to have to expand our production levels as a country. And if we don't do that, and the economies of scale, when you look at the numbers, there's going to be a shortage of food. And it means that the price of food is also going to increase. And these are some of the things, and you're doing principles of business, demand and supply. You're doing agricultural science, you learn about these things as well. And you would recognize that ensuring that we have sufficient food, not just to feed ourselves, but to also deal with the mass amount of people coming here as visitors in terms of our tourism product, is going to be critical and important. Not just for your school feeding program, but even at home when mommy and daddy goes to the supermarket or to the vegetable market to purchase. So now you see why it's important that we take and recognize this thing called food security as an important part of how we value our development as a people. All of these things will play an important role. But what is even more fundamentally important is for you as students to acquire the knowledge and the roundedness and the approach that we take and we value with agriculture. And you apply that so that you can also make a determination whether or not, when you leave this institution, you probably have enough lawyers, we have enough doctors, I believe. We don't have enough agronomists, engineers, persons who are soil technicians, persons who are involved in agronomy, so that we can broaden our educational discipline to take into account these varying skill sets that you can acquire and you can apply them back to everyday living here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And that is fundamentally what this program brings to you. It addresses the issues of, from a broad policy framework of ending hunger, but importantly, giving you that awareness of food security, of plants, and how production techniques and models that are used in farms, and also will pique your interest that someday one or two or three of you may venture into the field of agriculture, whether it's farmers, technicians, professionals of whatever kind, to make a contribution, a valid contribution to our development as a country. And I'm happy that the Zero Hunger Trust Fund has agreed to venture into this MOU with the institution and will take this model and move forward as a multiplier with other educational institutions across the country so that we can add value to what we're doing in a very broad and holistic way. I commend you as well, as the Minister of Agriculture indicated. You're here in August in your school uniform, and it shows the discipline the seriousness and commitment of the teaching staff as well. They didn't wait until September to do this. They wanted to get it on the way. And I'm happy that you're here today, setting an example, taking a leadership role, and showing the rest of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that the future is bright among our young people. And once we nurture them and we work with them, we can see the full potential of our students. And I want to thank you and congratulate you very much on this program. I wish this program all the very best, and I certainly will be back to partake of the fruits of your hard labor. And I'm happy to be a part of this initiative. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, Minister James. At this time, we have come to the reason we are all gathered here, which is where two institutions would join hands to see that our students are given an opportunity to advance themselves and to be part of the future and to ensure that we are all safe for tomorrow. We are now at the point where we would see the signing of this agreement between the Zero Hunger Trust Fund and the Intermediate High School, and by extension, the Ministry of Education. At this time, we welcome back our music department as the entertainers during this signing of this agreement. So now we have signed the agreement. The program is officially started. And at this time, we're going to invite our agriculture science teacher, Ms. Patricia Payne, to give us our vote of thanks. Please don't leave after, because we have a media tour of our agriculture science plot, and our agriculture science student will be demonstrating some of the skills that they have learned thus far. Ms. Patricia Payne.
Protocol has already been established. Honorable Sabato Caesar, Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor. Well, he was here still. Honorable Curtis King, Minister of Education and National Reconciliation. Honorable Carlos James, Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development and Culture. Mrs. Sapphire Hornbeak, Chief Executive Officer of the Zero Hunger Fund. Chairman of the Zero Hunger Fund, Mr. Derry Williams. Mr. Alban Williams, Field Officer of Input Warehouse. Principal, Mrs. Mona Green of the Intermediate High School. Specially invited guests, media personnel, teachers, and students. A pleasant good afternoon once more. It is with great pleasure in Intermediate High School's history to be part of such an initiative. The establishment of the Agriculture Science Program will definitely educate students as to how to be self-efficient and sustainable. It will definitely enable them to learn how to become young entrepreneurs and be productive. And we need a lot of these in our society today. Students, use this opportunity wisely because the future is more about you. So with great pleasure, we at the Intermediate High School say thank you to all who attended this ceremony this afternoon. Thank you especially to Mrs. Sapphire Hornbeak, of the Zero Hunger Trust Fund. I'm so grateful for you considering us for this assistance. With this, we at the Intermediate High School can make better strides as we try to achieve our objectives of starting this agriculture science program. Thank you all once more and a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. The media tour would be led by Ms. Patricia Payne and her agriculture science student. And so I now pass you over to Ms. Patricia Payne and her agriculture science student.